All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and like always, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me on the podcast, for sharing in your questions and comments and all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate it. It makes it a lot of fun. So thank you for you guys. So let's talk today about energies, how to move through the energies of December, how to navigate them. And I'm talking like energies of Christmas shopping, the collective, like people out there. I'm talking about the energies of family, how to move through these energies, some things to keep in mind. Because I was chatting with Spirit and they're like, there's kind of three things for people to remember. And so I was like, okay, let's talk about this on the podcast then. And so that's where this is coming from. So let's think of a few things here first when we consider the energies of what we're moving into now, right? Like we are at the end of the year. So the last month of a very tiring, revealing, tedious year that followed on the heels of a very uprooting 2020, right? So we had 2020 that just threw everyone for a loop. Big changes, big fears, big revelations, kind of just thrown in our faces, to then follow it up with another really tumultuous year of 2021. And now we're coming to the end of that. So the reason why I say that is, imagine how much everybody in some form is feeling like they're at the end of the rope. And maybe I shouldn't say everybody. I'm going to take that back and I'm going to say a high proportion of people, not everybody, but many are at the end of their rope, feeling like they just have nothing left. They are frustrated, tired, questioning. There's a lot of fear energy still going around right now, especially with new variants coming out. Like it triggers people. So there's a lot of energy questioning many layers of how everything is being affected right now. Like not just new variants of COVID, but we're talking like markets, economic markets, political systems, so many different things. Then on top of that, we have the way in which the stars are aligned right now, the energy that we're moving in, and the push from the spirit world to really dive in to get to know who we are. So it's kind of like, how diamonds are formed under intense pressure? It's kind of like humans are going through this big pressure cooker to try and become their brightest, most free, shiny version of self. Not that that's an easy process, right? Pressure is not an easy process. Change is not easy. Transformation, transmutation, all of that is not easy stuff. It takes work and it takes conscious thought. So if you put all of those feelings plus more into this big mixed bag, that's what people are kind of carrying around or swimming in, right? And then also think of it this way. Last year, many people didn't do that kind of Christmas shopping. Many people didn't do big family gatherings, which maybe more are doing now, or maybe more might not now, considering what's come out, who knows. But where I'm going is, then you have this return to being around a lot of people, which, whether we realize it or not, actually is a change in energy. It's a change in frequency to be merged with that many different people in a space, right? When you get used to kind of being within a certain group, it becomes a predictable energy. And then when you move out into, society, into your community, and you're interacting with a lot more energies, there's a lot more energy for you to maneuver, which kind of triggers your own energy system of like, oh, something's different. Oh, this is different. This is different. This is different. And when you're not used to that, the body and the energy is like, what's going on? Right? So there's also just your own energy moving and connecting with these outer energies. And when those outer energies are carrying all that kind of chaos energy that we were talking about in the beginning, that's a lot of stuff to interpret, to transmute, to maneuver through. So this is where we're going with this message from Spirit. And so they said there was kind of some like three simple things. And then after that, I'm going to get specifically to family, but I'm talking right now. Actually, no, they're saying it pertains to both, but we're just going to roll with it. So right now, the things to consider when you're moving out and about with people, with all of that, is number one, you are the co-creator. This is a really important one. And I've talked about this a lot in the last month. You are the co-creator of your experiences. So if you don't like the way your experience is happening, how can you explore a different way of doing it? Maybe, for example, maybe you're like, well, I have no option but having to run out and get Christmas presents and I can't order it online for whatever reason. Fair point. So then how can you co-create that differently? Maybe it's that you find out what time the store opens and you go right in the morning before most people get there. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you put in your headphones and you put Christmas music or whatever kind of music you want to bring in a Zen vibe while you're doing your Christmas shopping, which kind of blocks out some of the energies. Or maybe you sit for a minute or two in the parking lot before you go in and you just open up to the experience and you say, okay, here we go. I'm just going to embrace it for what it is. So if it's a gong show, it's simply going to be something I can observe and laugh about as I walk out the store after, right? It's co-creating your environment. You really get to do that. We're not just subject to these energies. Like, yes, these energies are happening, but we also then get to really choose what we do about it. And that's what Spirit really wanted to emphasize. Choose what you can do about it. And I have to say, this has really been working for me too. So there's some validity into what they're saying, definitely some validity there. So co-create. The next thing they wanted to say is that with these kind of endings of this energy of December, where things are coming to a close after yet a second year of crazy chaos, change, shift, and all of that, we are also stepping into this really interesting new template, which I'm going to talk about in the predictions for 2022. But I'll give you guys more of a heads up here. We're entering into this new life and new ability to embody a greater sense of self. So for those that have been doing the work and moving through these energies of the last 2 years, we now have an ability to further embody like a pillar who we are here. Instead of just working on the foundations, like we've talked a lot about, like you're building foundations, you're building the groundwork for who you're becoming, you're, digging up the stuff, you got to dig up stuff to then set your foundation and pour the concrete, all that, right? Many people who have done that are now moving into the embodiment, which is being the pillars. It's like framing a house. Now you're framing the house. You're actually embodying and creating what it looks like to then just add more to it. So this is also a new energy we're stepping into, which is why co-creation is so important. Because as you're co-creating what you're doing, you're changing the construct of who you are. And it really is, in a sense, that simple. It really is. It's the implementation that takes real conscious choice. But the idea is that simple. We're moving into embodiment. And this is a really good thing because I'll give you a little heads up even further. 2024 is about embodied relationships, harmonious pairings too. So that's going down there. But before you can have harmonious pairings, you really need some beautiful harmony within self, but embodied. So this is a new energy we're stepping into. This is an exciting thing. But right now, where we're at, especially in December, we are like in between the two, right? We're wrapping up one and starting another. We're in that like transition phase, that in-between world kind of thing. And so it's to remember that in that in-between, it's not so clear cut. It's still, you're still crossing that threshold of one energetic way of being to another. So there might be some things that come up that try to kind of pull you back a little bit, but it's a matter of you recognizing when that happens and being like, no, not working. So say, for example, they're giving me this example. Say you're in the store and you got your headphones on and I don't know, say you run into a couple of people and you're just like, it's not working. In that case, instead of just keep going, stop for a second. Maybe what you do is you change your playlist to something totally different. Maybe you put on a podcast that keeps you intellectually interested. Maybe you, I don't know, maybe you pause, maybe just stop and leave and go grab a coffee and then come back later. Like you can choose to be shifting and changing those things in that in between as needed so that you navigate your way into this new energy. Because I want to tell you, this new energy is really, really important and really beautiful and bountiful. And so again, to those of you that are listening to my podcast, I would imagine if you're listening to it, you are working on your stuff and moving and changing. So you can really look forward to this embodiment. And I would imagine too, many of you are already recognizing different ways in which you really are embodying more and more, especially this fall, it probably started. So that's a really cool thing. So that's one of the ways that we can kind of navigate those outside energies. Now, when it comes to family and connecting with family and stuff like that, these same ideas of co-create, recognizing a new life and this in between also applies, because one of the things in this new embodiment energy is when we're interacting with other people around us, the more we embody self, the more we realize we do not need to influence anybody else's journey. You are on your journey as a soul, and that is the one that really matters. Yes, everybody matters in the world, but your soul came here for a purpose, was for you to grow and change and evolve. And that's the one that you have to fill that cup so that you can help fill other cups, right? So the more that you embody who you are, the less you realize you need to truly affect somebody else's journey. You can inspire them by leading by example, but to really worry about the way someone is or how they act or how they trigger you is really not yours unless you're choosing to want to take it on. So in that same situation with family, you can choose to either embrace people as they are, meet them where they're at, love them for their quirks and the things that they do, or let it bother you. You can foster beautiful relationships in areas that you can connect with them. You can, build beautiful conversations and understandings, and the parts that you don't, you leave it be. Like say politics, for example. Politics is always a great one because it can trigger a ton of people. So if you know that politics is a very triggering topic for you to bring up at Christmas dinner, say, then you know what, maybe leave it out. If you don't want to have those interactions, then what can you bring up at Christmas dinner that is actually really beautiful for everybody? Say you heard a hilarious story of something non-political. You can bring that up and share that and share in that joy. It's being really choosy, again, co-creating your experiences through all that you do. And then recognizing the beautiful pieces in other people. Because here's the thing. We can find beauty in pretty much any other person, even if it is, and I'm going to go to an extreme here. Say somebody is so harsh with you. What you could choose, though, to still find beauty in is your conscious choice in that moment to not take it on and recognize the wounding, the triggers, the whatever is being brought up for that person is so intense that they just can't contain it and it's coming out. You're recognizing you don't have to take it on. It's not yours. And in that is a beauty. That is a piece of beauty right there, because you're like, wow, have I ever come to recognize something about myself? I don't have to take that on. It has nothing to do with me. I'm going to shake it off and keep having fun here and there and there and there. So we can always choose to find those things, those little beautiful, bright diamonds, right? Those diamonds in all kinds of experiences. That is completely up to us. So that's really something to consider as we move through this holiday season, is really creating it in a way that you get the most out of it, really the most out of it. And that can always be done. We really are in this new phase of creating life how we want to experience it, regardless of what is happening around us. So if there's anything that I can really emphasize and leave you guys with, is that idea of new life. How are you choosing to create the bounty that you live in? Your environment, little things, and even for yourself, it can be, here's one thing that I've done for myself the last year, really specifically, is I will get up about 45 minutes before the kids. I'll get up and I'll have a coffee. I'll come back, sit in bed. It's nice and dark. I'll either do meditation or I'll listen to some really peaceful music and kind of stare out the window, watch the sun come up. I will just take that 45 minutes to myself with a hot cup of coffee, of course, and give myself that time, which changes my whole perspective of the day. It really does. It sets me in the right foot forward. Sometimes if I wake up and I'm so tired, I'm super groggy, and I'm sitting up in bed, leaning against the headboard, but I've got my eyes closed, but I'm happy in that moment. I'm peaceful because I have that time. So it's carving out time, creating those new life things that help you be in your best energy moving forward. It is so important, so involved in our embodiment, and we get to choose it. That's the cool thing. As always, like when I had my near-death experience, the greatest understanding I came back with that I learned on the other side is that choice is our greatest gift. We get to choose so many aspects of how we create this world that we're experiencing from our perspectives, what we do, little things matter. Choice is our greatest gift, and that comes from you. So you get to choose those little things to help alter your day. And just as far as they're reminding me at this point too, it can be as simple as things like having coffee in the morning by yourself, right? But it can go as far as if something really traumatic happens to you, something really traumatic, and you're sitting there in that energy of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You also have a choice in that moment and in the moments that follow, but you have a choice of, do you choose to try and eat all of the emotions you're feeling and hold it all inside? Or are you going to take that opportunity to reach out to somebody? Are you going to take that opportunity to reach out for help, to express, to whatever? What are you going to consciously do in the situations that come? Again, that is our human free will choice always. And when we really recognize that, although we hear it all the time, but when we really recognize it, we come back into this greater sense of ease, recognizing that we have a lot more sense of control than we think. Because when we think everything is simply just happening to us, then we start to feel that anxiety and that panicky feeling, everything feels out of control. Then we start to grasp tighter on things, which causes disharmony. But when we come back to realizing we can choose each reaction of each piece and what fits best for us, and do I need time to think about what my choice is or not? Then you come back to realizing that you are in the driver's seat, and that makes the whole process that much easier to move through. So be in the driver's seat this holiday season. Really slow down where you want, roll down the window where you want, maybe roll up the window and turn the music on when you need, whatever it may be. You're in the driver's seat. Co-create, recognize that new life, and remember, you're in that in between. So be willing to maneuver as it comes. So I hope that helps you guys. I truly appreciate you listening and tuning in. And if you haven't already, do check out avalonspirit.com if you're wanting to really explore your consciousness and expand it. Lots of offerings there, as well as Spirit Coffee Talks, this beautiful, chatty coffee with spirit thing that I do with Elise Catherine and Lisa Richmond every Friday. And it's on the Avalon Spirit YouTube page. Check that out. We always end up talking about something fun, something interesting, a recap on the energies, you name it. So if you're looking for more of this kind of stuff, check that out as well. And with that, I hope you guys are having a lovely December, and I will be back next week.